Oops.
Anniversary in April 2017. Well, she's a past District 7 director, Pathways ambassador and guide as well. And she volunteered in 12 Toastmaster International conventions, including Chicago this year. And her mission is helping to bring out the best in people, organizations, and communities. This will be my first time to volunteer in Toastmaster International Convention, as well as my first time to participate to an international convention of Toastmaster. Please help me to welcome Michelle Albali. She's going to give us a presentation from 20 to 30 minutes.
Thank you very much, Daniva. Thank you. And I will ask everybody for the first few minutes, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, to please unmute yourselves, everyone. Unmute yourselves. It's okay to have a little bit of noise. That's okay. Because when I say the letter, or I say, give me a whatever letter, I want you to shout the letter out. Well, not shout, maybe just say it out, because we all have our very powerful audio pickups. So let's get this started. And if you can stand, I'm standing, by the way, I've been standing all throughout. So if you can stand, great. If not, just be seated. So give me a B. Give me an O. Give me an L. Give me a U. Give me an N. Give me a T. Give me an E. And give me another E. And give me an R. Give me a volunteer. Volunteer. Thank you so much. Thank you. You can now unmute yourselves, and if you had stood up, you can take your seats back. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. It wasn't that fun. And you all volunteered. You just all participated, and you gave me the letters. Volunteer. So I love that. And I will be sharing my screen just because there's so much about volunteers that I want to share with you. As soon as I can get this little baby. Oops, there you are. So we just did that. You just gave me a V, you gave me an O, you gave me an L, you gave me a U, an N, a T, a double E, and an R. You gave me a volunteer. And that's what volunteers do. They give. They usually just jump up. Nobody said, what? What am I going to do? Am I going to give? Huh? People just jumped in and did what they were asked to do. Why do people volunteer? I saw this graphic, Google. It said there are 5 reasons that people volunteer. One is to gain new skills. We gain so much. We gain better leadership. We gain even the skills of technology we learn from volunteering. We meet a lot of new people, as Julie had mentioned and Fabiola had mentioned, and I'm sure all of you, when you volunteer, you meet new people, you make new friends, and somehow we feel that we make a difference. It can be a small difference or it can be a huge difference, but any difference is worth being a volunteer. And we give back to the community. In our Toastmasters community, we gain so much, so we give back. And come on, let's face it, some people say, oh, I don't care, I don't really care about being valued. But deep down inside, we all want to feel that we are valued, that we are part of a team, that people will miss us when we're not there. And of course, we have fun. But wait, there's actually a 7th reason. That is, volunteers usually are healthier than people who just sit on their own and who don't participate. There is scientific research to show that when people volunteer, when they reach out to others, when they help out, when they give, when they share, they actually are healthier, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. So that's awesome. So now, with those Masters Helping Hands, this is actually a relatively new program. Before, we were just volunteers. We were wearing sashes. We were wearing all kinds of. In Arizona, they gave us scarves and they gave us some, I think, denim vests, but there was no name. We were just called volunteers. And sometimes we're called ambassadors, which I didn't really like because ambassadors don't really sound like they're down there in the dirt helping. It sounds like you're an ambassador. So the term helping hands came up, I think, about 3 years ago in Washington, D.C. That was the first time it came out, and I love it. So the question is, how can you be the best possible volunteer? What can you do? And I am not preaching, or I am not speaking to newbies. I know all of you have had volunteer experience. So let's go around for a couple of minutes. How can you be the best possible volunteer? Who would like, just raise your hand and give me like a one short line or a one short answer? How can you be the best possible volunteer? Maybe, who's raising her hand? Yes, Samir.
Um, Consider the needs of the people you're serving. It's about them and not me.
I love that. Consider the needs of the people you're serving. It's about them, not about us. Beautiful. Could I have a couple more? Just raise your hand, please. Yes, Teresa. And then Fabiola. Wow, we have all the hands. So we'll have Teresa and then Fabiola. Yes, Teresa.
Short and sweet, just show up.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I so love that. Just show up, right? Yes. And then Fabiola.
Be mindful of the time that you can spend so you can be reliable.
Yes, which ties in with the showing up. And Jenny, we will have Jenny and Deniba, and then we'll have to cut it out because we have to be mindful of the time. Yes, Jenny.
Well, mine was like Teresa's, just be available when you're needed.
Yes, thank you. And Deniba, thank you, Jenny. And Deniba?
And yes, I think it's very important also to keep smiling.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. So I knew it. I knew that this group that I'm speaking to are experienced volunteers, which is confirmed by the fact that all your answers are somewhere here in one of my slides. Now, because I am crazy about acoustics, I've created the word volunteer as our guide. So the first, very important, is volunteer yourself, right? And you notice self is in capitals because that is a special for me self. As I think Marty mentioned, sometimes we may not really have the skills or the talents. We may not even have the time, but we have the heart and we have the passion. So we show up and we volunteer. What about the letter O? Oh, sorry. Let me speak a little bit more about the self because it's an acrostic with an acrostic. So the volunteer, you volunteer selflessly. That's why I loved it when Samir said, it's not about us, it's about them, right? It's not like, oh, I'll volunteer for this because it will give me credit. They will know me. If you volunteer for that purpose, you'll be frustrated because usually you will just be a face in the crowd. People will not even remember your name, but they will say, oh, the Helping Hands volunteers were amazing. They will not say Samir was amazing or Michelle was amazing, but they will say the entire group. So you selflessly volunteer. And somebody said, volunteer, be early, volunteer early. The early bird catches the worm, right? And this is so true with Helping Hands. I had so many people approaching me saying, oh, the link is no longer working. We cannot volunteer anymore. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And they said, can you try and squeeze me in? We really want to volunteer. Sorry. because there were only 200 slots. And some people were saying it's your fault because I had actually posted the link early. I posted it in the official Toastmasters Facebook group. I posted it all over the place. And I guess I don't know if I'm at fault, but people signed up so early this year that 200 slots went away. I think in middle July or first week of July, it was gone. So volunteer selflessly, volunteer early, volunteer lovingly. Give your heart. Who was saying that you have to smile? Yeah, Deniba was saying, be there with not just your physical self, but your emotions, your passion. Be there lovingly, with care, and please volunteer frequently. Oh gosh, I mean, sometimes Marty said you have to look at your time if you have enough time to spare. Sometimes I don't even do that. I just say yes. Then I realize, okay, that's really close to this other one. I got to scramble. But yeah, sometimes you have to adjust. But be willing to volunteer frequently, as often as you can, within your physical time and space, of course. So then what about the letter O? This is so important, especially for volunteers who have been, you might consider seasoned or experienced volunteers. Open yourself to possibilities. Don't go like, oh no, that's not how we did it last time. Oh gosh, I mean, when you do that, number one, people will not really feel very comfortable with you because you have this chip on your shoulder. I have volunteered, as was mentioned, 11 times with the Toastmasters convention. This will be my 12. But my first question is always, what do we do? How do you want it done? And then I look, I listen, and I learn. Because if I had closed myself to the possibilities, because I am a volunteer, I know how to do this, then I wouldn't have learned. And you can learn from first timers because they will bring a fresh insight. They will approach things with a new mindset because they haven't seen it before. And they will say, what if this? What if that? And you'll go, oh, yeah, right. That sounds great. So look, listen, and learn. And once you say, oh, no, I've already seen everything, I've heard everything, there's nothing more to learn, then please do not volunteer anymore because you would not be bringing your positive, passionate self. You would become a jaded volunteer, which is almost an oxymoron when you're volunteering, but your heart isn't there. Which actually brings us to the you. And I will take some liberties with the you. Your unique, ubiquitous, unfaced you. Okay, that starts with a Y, but you know what I mean. You bring yourself, your whole self, your uniqueness. Don't try to be like some other volunteer. When you go in, be your authentic self. Of course, if that means that you will suddenly start jumping and dancing in the middle of the convention center, maybe wait for the right time, like the annual business meeting. Where we were actually dancing around because they had some technology issues. But don't feel that you have to inhibit yourself. I've been reading on the Helping Hands Facebook group. People are saying, what is the dress code? What do we need to do? What do we need to do? And I hope I don't make them too crazy because there are enough crazy people already. But I've suggested that focus on your comfort. Be more interested in how can you serve? How can you bring the you? And I shared, for example, because they say business casual. And so I just shared, I said, personally, my clients pay me when I do my seminars wearing my blue denims. So I always go to convention as a volunteer wearing my jeans. And so far, nobody has thrown me out. Although I always pack a pair of black slacks just in case they say, you cannot come in that. But be yourself. I personally, that's how I want to be. Now, if you like high heels or whatever, then be that person, but be you. And the next one is a little hard. You have to say no when necessary. This is really hard because saying yes is so easy, but sometimes we have to say no. Let me share with you. There's so many instances, but let me share 3 examples because this will deliver the message. Several years ago, before we had this really nicely organized helping hands, we were just called ambassadors. I think this was in Phoenix, Arizona, and we were wearing this burgundy sash, and we were given this denim vest. And we had a choice if we wanted to wear a scarf. I said, no scarf for me. So we had our respective assignments, and the golden gavel back then was during lunch. So it was a ticketed event. Well, I wanted to attend the golden gavel, so I paid for the golden gavel. So I was sitting there, and then a volunteer came in. I guess she saw me because I had my volunteer vest. So she came in and sat beside me, and she had a plastic bag with a styrofoam box of her lunch. And so I was looking at her, and the waiters were looking at her. They didn't know what to do. Apparently, the person at the door, the volunteer at the door, didn't know how to say no. And eventually, a staff member from World Headquarters came over and asked her to leave because this was a ticketed event. So that was a little bit awkward, a little bit embarrassing. It could have been avoided if the volunteer at the door had put on her best smile and said, "I'm so sorry, but we need a ticket for this event." Because she also didn't know. She was saying, "Well, I'm a volunteer, so I can come in, and I'm not having their lunch. I brought my own lunch." So it was a comedy of errors. But there's another example which is even more. In my case, I was the one standing at the door. This was the president's dinner dance. And those of you who have been at a convention, or even if not, you will know that this is a dress up event. The men wear the suit and the black tie, the little bow tie sometimes. And the women, some of them wear the gowns and high heels. So here comes this international director. I know he's an international director. I've seen him and his lovely wife. But guess what? They're not wearing badges. So guess where their ticket is? It's in the room. Maybe, right? But I don't know. I need to see it. So I said to him, "I'm so sorry, but we need a ticket." And the husband was kind of, he understood. The wife was actually annoyed. She was giving me this look, and she was really tall. I think she would have been like 5'7" without heels, but since she was wearing heels, I think she was like 5'10", and there I was 5'3". She was looking down at me and looking at her heels, and obviously saying, "Are you dumb?" I mean, she didn't say it, but her look showed me that I should have enough sense to let her in. I didn't let her in. I said, "I'm sorry, no." And so what the husband did is he went back to the room, and she stayed outside, and they came back, and yes, they had a ticket. But you need to be able to say no. A third example, because this one is a lovely example. How many of you know Mark Snow? Raise your hand. Chief Ambassador Mark Snow. Yes. Well, I first met Mark Snow at the convention store door in Vancouver. He wanted to go in during the director's briefing or the director's preview on Tuesday, and he wasn't a trio member. So I said, "I'm so sorry, I can't go in." And well, he wanted to, but I said no in a really nice way. So we ended up chatting, getting to know each other a bit. Every time now when somebody asks on Facebook, "How did you get to know so and so?" he will say, if it's Michelle, he will say, "Oh, she was the best bouncer I ever met." So you can be a bouncer, but you have to do it nicely. This is a skill that's so important, but you have to learn to say no. And related to that is the letter T. You have to be tactful and thoughtful. Oh gosh, I've heard people. I just want to demonstrate this with. I've heard people going around, and they don't know how to find somewhere in the convention center. And I heard a volunteer go, "You don't know how to use your smartphone? And here, let me show you. See, it's right there. It's so easy." maybe. Yes, Marty, I know. That was how I felt. I'm like, no, you don't do that. So be thoughtful, be tactful with people. If they're asking you, that means they don't know. So don't rub it in. Don't make them feel like they're duh. And always be considerate. And as somebody mentioned, think of helping from their perspective, not from yours. And I hope Oladili is around because I promised him I was going to talk about energy. Where is there? Energy. Oh my gosh, your batteries will run down. First of all, the convention is so big. The convention center is so big. So make sure that you plan for energy. It will not happen unless you plan for it. See, I already have my granola chewy energy bars. And oops, I have my cheese and almonds. And for breakfast, oh, I should have opened this up so you could see it better. Let me do that again. Okay, so you see I have my breakfast. Granola always gives energy. I hope you don't have allergies to that. My chewy bars, because you can tuck this into your back pocket or your vest pocket. And then when you want a snack, have some cheese, very healthy. And I have my peanuts. And so all of these things are okay. I'm wondering, why do I have that when this is my time? I am confused.
Could you change your background now?
I was told in chat 20 minutes and then 10 minutes for Q&A.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't told that. So I'm sorry.
With the regular timing is published on the agenda if you prefer.
Okay, so I can let me just finish the slide then. And I was surprised, in fact, because I thought that I only had 20 minutes and then I saw 30. So I guess, yes. So enthusiastic and resourceful. So this is a picture from last year.
We can't see.
Oh, what happened? Okay.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah, I will do that if I can get back. Okay. That freaked me out when I saw the time because I was also timing myself.
Would you like?
No, it's okay.
For less
it's
time
okay.
for Q&A? Okay.
No, it's okay. I'm now at that point. So there's the enthusiasm, which we all know. So I don't really have to speak too much on that. Resourcefulness, and just the wrap up. This is the photograph of last year. If you are a convention volunteer, make sure that you are there for the orientation because the finale is the picture. And 2 years ago, I didn't realize that, so I wasn't the picture. Last year, I was. So again, be the best volunteer you can possibly be. And so I end at 21 minutes and 54 seconds. And let us now have time for questions, comments, or any inputs. Yes, Teresa.
Okay. When you volunteer, I volunteered for certain things. When you have to travel, do they pay for your travel, like when you go to the conventions, or is it up to you?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Toastmasters only pays when we were district leaders, which is also a volunteer, as Marty will definitely agree. You volunteer oodles and oodles of time, and Fabiola knows that now. For the district leaders, the trio, we get our airfare, our hotel, and the registration fee covered because we work like crazy. Right, Marty and Fabiola? Yes. So as a volunteer of this level, Helping Hands, no. You have to pay for your registration. However, remember I mentioned that you need to be there for the Tuesday orientation. If you attend the orientation, if you're present, which is about 2 hours on Tuesday afternoon, and then you volunteer for 10 hours, you commit to serve at least 10 hours of Helping Hands, you will get a $200 reduction from your total registration. So this year, if it was early bird 535, you only pay 335. But then people say, well, that gets offset with the hotel. So yes, it does. So long answer to your question. Short answer is no. Next question. Just raise your hand if you have a question or a suggestion, something you want to add on to what I said. And this, by the way, is the beautiful vest. Let me see if you can see it. This is the vest from the, I don't know why I am not showing up, but hopefully you can see it. It's got pockets and all that, so it's very handy. And just if you volunteer, just remember that you have to take care of your own equipment as well, your personal belongings. So I usually bring my belt bag, so I don't have to worry about a big purse where to put it. This one I just carry it like that, and I'm good. And I can put my granola bars and peanuts and all that, because you do need the energy. Seriously, you will start to flag down. You will start feeling, oh, I just want to crawl into bed, because standing up all day can be, well, I was crazy. My craziest volunteer time was in Arizona. I think I volunteered 30 hours. So that was crazy. I was running around back and forth, and never again. My maximum now is maybe 18 or 20 hours. Next question or comment? Yes, Fabiola.
You covered the ability to say no, but what about saying no with yourself, in the sense that some people, they do volunteer, but that they don't take into consideration that actually they don't have the time or the energy or whatever, but they say yes to be volunteering, not only for Toastmaster but for any other volunteer work, and then it ends up, not being good for them or not being good for the organization either.
Yes, that is a very valid point. The question is, what is your Maginot line? Where is it? And in my case, I have done that. Like I said, Arizona was crazy, and I said never again, because I volunteered for 30 hours. I was literally running, not expression. I was running from one area to another. And so I said never again. So what I said to myself is, okay, half of that, 15 will be the maximum. But then help here, help there. I ended up with maybe 20. So yes, you have to know yourself. And like I said, you need to have, plan for the energy. But it's a decision that only the person himself or herself can make. And so yes, look out for yourself. In fact, my message this morning in my Facebook Live was nurture yourself. Ultimately, we ourselves, nobody, I cannot advise anybody on that. Ultimately, we make that choice ourselves. But thanks, Fabiola. Next question or point? Yes, Roberto, could you unmute yourself, please?
Shelley, you told that you get a discount on the registration